During the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, we got yet another reference to Vegeta's brother. The series has been toying with the idea that there is another Prince of Saiyans out there in the universe. Today, I would like to share with you one of my favorite Dragon Ball stories of all time. The story of Rigor, Vegeta's insanely powerful brother. Authored by Malik Studios, the story begins a few years after the events of Dragon Ball GT. Everyone on Earth is enjoying a few years of peace, but this doesn't mean the Z Warriors have gotten lazy. Goku, Gohan, and Oob are doing heavy training in the Kaioshin realm, while on Earth, Vegeta is training by himself in his gravity chamber to make sure he doesn't fall behind. Vegeta says, "We're finally equals. I refuse to let Kakarot slip ahead of me again, not even for a moment." At the same time, as we've seen before in the past, the narrator lets us know that two unknown visitors head towards Earth, one of which is a face from a long forgotten past. The two visitors slam into the planet as soon as Vegeta is finishing up his training. "What is that? An earthquake?" asks Bulma. "Barely a tremor. Calm down," responds Vegeta. From one of the capsules, a visitor takes her first few steps onto planet Earth. It's a Saiyan woman. She begins to scan the planet with her scouter. Behind her, a voice asks, "Picking up anything?" And this is where we get our first look at the second visitor. A tall, muscular Saiyan with an obvious resemblance to Vegeta. Can you guess who this is? The female Saiyan responds to his question by saying, "Abundant life and a handful of large unit readings," referring to the current power levels on planet Earth. The mystery Saiyan responds, "How large?" "Larger than mine for sure," said the first Saiyan. "But there is a big one nearby, the biggest on the planet. Its power level is somewhat comparable to yours." "Where?" responded the second Saiyan. "That way. Seems to be in that city we passed over." "Let's go then," said the second Saiyan with a slight temper. The first Saiyan, the female Saiyan, responds with obvious care. She says, "Perhaps you should rest a moment first. It's dangerous to exert yourself so soon after hypersleep." "No," said our mystery Saiyan. "I've rested enough. Come." He grabs her hand and flies off towards the largest power level on the planet. At the same time, everyone, all of the Z Warriors, sense these intruders. Piccolo, Goten, Pan, Trunks, and even Vegeta, they're all in shock at the massive amount of ki coming from this mystery Saiyan. Vegeta says, "What? Who is that? That's not Kakarot. Damn it." He starts to run to the front door of the building he's in. As he realizes what's happening, "Whoever that is," he says, "they're coming this way." As soon as Vegeta exits the building, he's immediately in shock. "It's been a long time, Prince Vegeta," said the mystery Saiyan, who is already in the sky above the building looking down on Vegeta. The newcomer lands and there is an intense face-off between the two Saiyans. "Vegeta, who is that?" said Bulma. "Is that a friend of yours, Dad?" Bra asks. "So it is you," said the mystery Saiyan. Vegeta is shocked. The Saiyan continues, "When I heard that planet Vegeta had been destroyed, I had feared that you had perished along with it. But in my heart, I somehow knew you had survived. Now, it appears that my destiny has rewarded my faith." Vegeta responds, "I don't believe I've made your acquaintance." The two new Saiyans are shocked. And this is almost a bit of humor because although it's such an intense moment, these newcomers really expected a different reaction from Vegeta. I really like this panel. I like the way it's drawn and what it implies. It's almost whimsical, which makes me feel like these guys may not be all bad. Or are they? Anyway, let's continue. "The prince doesn't remember us," said the female Saiyan. "He may have forgotten us, but I can never forget him. And he has a debt to pay," replied the mystery Saiyan. "Debt? What debt?" "I don't even know who you are," said Vegeta. "Yes, you do. We have unresolved history. Do you remember Planet Palm?" "Planet Palm?" stumbled Vegeta. "Yes, and the squadron you led for that single mission. The night where a lone child stood up to you. Do you remember the one time a subordinate actually struck you?" "Wait," said Vegeta. We get a flashback. Young Vegeta is standing on another Saiyan's face. He says, "Let this be a lesson to you, Prol. You may have strength, but you lack technique and grace. You will never be my match. Now you're where you belong, under my boot." Vegeta says, "Now I remember. You're that black-tailed brat, the one I put in his place that night. So you do remember." said the mystery Saiyan. Vegeta responds, "Did you come here to settle a childhood splat? All because I beat you decades ago? That's part of it," respond the Saiyan. "But no, you have a life debt to pay." I just want to pause here for a second and acknowledge this situation, because it's one of the reasons why this is one of my favorite Dragon Ball stories. It's easy to forget just how bad Vegeta was. Yes, the Saiyans as a whole were barbaric and enjoyed war, but even after we take that into account, Vegeta was still unbelievably cruel. When he was introduced in the Saiyan saga of Dragon Ball Z, we saw Vegeta stop on an inhabited planet while heading to Earth for the first time. And after using the inhabitants of that planet, he casually destroys them all before leaving for no reason other than his own amusement. Mass genocide just because he felt like it. Not to mention, we saw him kill Nappa without a second thought for losing to Goku, even though Nappa was a part of Vegeta's squad and served him loyally since he was a child. This isn't to bash Vegeta, because Vegeta really is one of my favorite characters. And the fact that he's living here on Earth with a family that he loves and he's willing to protect the planet is a real testament to how much he's changed over the years. But in my opinion, him changing doesn't necessarily wash away all the horrible things he's done. Although a lot of Vegeta's cruelty was done under Frieza's orders, it makes sense to me that some of those horrible things would eventually catch up with Vegeta, and him overcoming them would be a big part of seeing his character actually grow and change. Let's continue the story, because we're only a few panels away from one of my favorite scenes. "I have no idea what you're talking about," says Vegeta. "A life debt?" The mystery Saiyan gets visibly upset. "Calm down," says the female Saiyan with him. He then exhales and regains his composure. At the same time, Bulma yells, "Hey, I don't know who you think you are, but you don't come to someone's home and threaten them like that." Bulma then approaches the mystery Saiyan, and even though he towers over her, she raises her hand to slap him. But as her fingers are inches away, someone grabs her hand. It's the female Saiyan. She says, "Touch my husband and I'll kill you." And this is one of my favorite scenes in the story. It's a big oh snap moment for me, because not only do we learn that these two new Saiyans are married, we also get to see Bulma put in her place in front of Vegeta. This is a very similar moment to when Bulma slapped Beerus when he first arrived on Earth, and it triggered Vegeta's My Bulma moment. And I wonder if this scene served as an inspiration for that moment in the Dragon Ball Super anime. But let's continue. With this, Vegeta is pissed. He says, "Alright," he's accepting the newcomer's challenge. And the three of them fly away from the city to start this fight. Up on Kami's lookout, Piccolo is monitoring the entire situation. He says, "I sense intense malice from that stranger." Mr. Popo then asks, "What do we do, Piccolo?" Piccolo responds, "Watch for now. Vegeta is the strongest of us besides Son Goku. We'll only get in his way." As they trail Vegeta, the wife says to the mystery Saiyan, "A family, huh? Can't say I was expecting that. And he tried to protect them. Maybe he's changed." The mystery Saiyan responds, "It doesn't matter. His sins are etched into history, and he's going to pay for what he's done, if it's the last thing I do." This panel is exactly what I was talking about earlier, where even if Vegeta has changed, that change doesn't wash away the things he's done. And that's in part why this story, or another one like it, is so crucial to his development. The three Saiyans arrive at a location they find suitable for the fight. Vegeta says, "Before we start this, tell me your names. I'm not going to keep calling you the black-tailed brat." The two mystery Saiyans are shocked that Vegeta wants to know their names. He remembers a young version of himself speaking to Vegeta. He says, "With all due respect, sir, I know this is your first mission with us, but shouldn't you at least try to learn the names of your squad mates?" Vegeta responds, "Why should I? Is this some kind of joke?" He says to Vegeta. "You would threaten my family in front of me and then question my veracity?" replied Vegeta. "Rigor," says the mystery Saiyan. And this, pointing to his wife, is Sapari. The two Saiyans face off, and then they both assume their respective battle stance. Vegeta says to Rigor, "I should warn you, I'm much stronger than the last time we met." Rigor responds, "Last time you defeated an unskilled child. We are no longer children. Hold nothing back. When I crush you, I want you to know there was nothing you could have done to survive. Hold nothing back? This is a request you'll regret, says Vegeta with a smirk. He then powers up and immediately goes into Super Saiyan 4. Rigor is clearly shocked. What in the, says Sapari. Vegeta responds, you're not the first to react that way to my power, but it's too late. Surrender. And then Rigor says, is that your best? Then allow me to reciprocate. No, you can't, said Sapari to him. You can't do that again. It'll kill you. Don't fret. I won't need it. Tell me, what's his unit rating? Sapari checks her scouter and says, no way. 20 million Tani. 20 million, respond Rigor. Then, this state will more than suffice. A couple quick things here. The first one is, I'm surprised that Sapari's scouter didn't explode. She must have some sort of new reinforced one. The second thing is, even after seeing Vegeta in Super Saiyan 4, which Vegeta is saying is his maximum power, Rigor doesn't feel like he needs to use his maximum power. Anyway, he begins to power up to a power level that he expects to beat Vegeta's Super Saiyan 4. Rigor begins to unleash his power, and even Vegeta, in his Super Saiyan 4 transformation, is taken back. Still on Kami's lookout, Piccolo is visibly shaken and says, oh no. Rigor begins to yell, electricity exploding from his body. There is a powerful flash. The dust clears, and from behind, we see him standing with a massive key, surrounded by lightning and what looks like fire even. There's a close-up of his eyes, where his pupils are visible. We then get a full frontal shot of his transformation. His hair has grown, and he's even more buff than he was before. It's almost like something that we would expect from Broly. The text at the bottom of the page reads, the true Super Saiyan. And unfortunately, this is where this chapter ends. So a big part of what makes the Rigor story so iconic is the backstory, is the why. Why did he come to Earth, and why does he have this giant grudge towards Vegeta? The next part of the story will answer this very question. The story starts with the narrator giving us the current year, which is age 732. We're on planet Vegeta, homeworld to the Saiyan race after the destruction of planet Sadala. The narrator continues by saying, this violent race is famous throughout the galaxy for their ferocity. However, this story doesn't begin with a tale of war, but something unusual for the members of the Saiyan race. Friendship. We then get a dialogue box of someone saying, it's so good to see you again, Peppra. It's been so long since we got to sit and talk. On the next panel, we get to see who this dialogue belongs to. Two female Saiyans are casually sitting on a rock having a conversation, and one of them is none other than Gine, Goku's mother, but this is before the age of Goku. So let's continue with the conversation. The second Saiyan, who we now know is Peppra, responds by saying, sorry about that, Gine. Things are hectic, especially with a new baby. How's that husband of yours? Gine responds, Bardock? Working as usual. He just left for another mission a couple days ago. Weren't you two in the same squad once? You should come see us next time he's home. With a little smile, Peppra responds, deal, but only under the condition that you cook. I'm a fighter. Homely duties have never been my thing. Oh really? Said Gine. Is that why I've only ever seen you eat those pre-packaged meals? Shut up, those meals are delicious. Peppra responds. Sure, Gine says back to her. The conversation continues with Gine asking Peppra if she's spoken to Echelot lately, someone who we haven't met yet, and Peppra letting her know that they're not on speaking terms. She then quickly pivots the conversation to Jine's new baby boy, who at this point is Goku's brother, Raditz. Gine lets Peppra know that Raditz is still in his nursing capsule, but he shows a bit of potential. He has a power level of 50, which is slightly higher than average for a Saiyan baby. Peppra responds to her saying, that's not a bad number, for a baby, I mean. Yeah, but from what I heard, the prince's number makes his look like nothing. Really? I hadn't heard yet, said Peppra. Are you serious? Everyone knows he broke every previous record. Really, what was his number? 538, said Gine to Peppra. Obviously here they're talking about Vegeta. Peppra is shocked. Gine follows up by saying, yeah, they said he's got the making of a super elite for sure. Maybe even, oh wait. And then Gine remembers that she hadn't gotten the numbers of Peppra's recently born son. So she asks, "Did you get your son's numbers yet?" "Oh yeah," respond Peppra, looking worried for some reason. Gine says, "Really? Let's have it. Don't leave me in the dark." And then Peppra lets her know that her son's power level at birth was 510. Gine responds, "That's crazy. Saiyan children rarely break into the 500s. The prince's numbers were highly irregular. For two to be born over 500 in the same day. I mean, this is awesome. I know you never talk about him, but shouldn't we let the father know?" "He already knows, Gine. Believe me, he knows." At the same time, Peppra gets a message through her scouter. "This is Lieutenant Peppra," she said. "Go ahead." "Really? So soon? We weren't supposed to go for another..." "I understand. I'm on my way." "What is it?" said Gine. "New orders directly from the king. We're moving the mission ahead. That damn Frieza wants it done now." "Well, what about your son?" said Gine. "He's still in a nursing capsule. I'll only be a few days." "Gine, I need you to promise me something. If anything were to happen, I want you to look after my boy." "Peppra, I couldn't possibly..." "Promise me, Gine. We don't have anyone else. You're the only one I trust to look after him if I'm gone." "All right, Peppra. I promise. Thank you. I'll be back in a few days. I'll get clearance to check in on my son." "Oh, okay. Did you give him a name yet?" "Of course. I named him after my father." "Really? That's so sweet. What's his name then?" And you've all probably already guessed it. Peppra's son, with the power level to match Vegeta's. His name is Rigor. Back to present day. Vegeta is standing in awe at Rigor's new power. "What is that?" he thought. "It looks like a Super Saiyan, but it feels so much stronger. And those red eyes, that red aura." Immediately, Rigor attacks. Fast, thought Vegeta, who barely manages to dodge Rigor's punch. The blow, however, is so powerful that it completely destroys the area Vegeta was standing on. There's an intense back and forth. Rigor is powerful, but this is still Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. The two are too fast for even Sapari's eyes to follow. They eventually clash in a test of strength. Open palm versus open palm. And this is where Vegeta notices that physically, Rigor is just stronger. Rigor begins to overpower him. Vegeta leaps away. "What are you?" he says. Rigor's response, "Judgment." "Judgment? What for?" said Vegeta. "Don't play dumb. You know what I'm talking about," Rigor says as he charges Vegeta. Vegeta responds with a ki blast from his left hand, creating multiple explosions around Rigor. Rigor's speed blitzes through the explosion, getting above Vegeta and hits him with a powerful blow from behind, knocking Vegeta towards the ground. He then charges at the prince, who's frustrated and sends a second ki blast directly at Rigor. Another huge explosion, but Rigor simply flies through it, completely unscathed. He throws a punch that Vegeta manages to dodge, and then Vegeta counterattacks, for the first time catching Rigor off guard. A powerful blow that Vegeta quickly follows up with a second powerful punch. It finally seems like Vegeta is gaining the upper hand, but on his third punch, Rigor simply catches it. With what feels like almost a bit of condescension, Rigor delivers his own blow to Vegeta, while still hanging on to his fist. He then backhands Vegeta, sending him flying, hitting the ground a few yards away. Looking down on Vegeta, he says, "You hit harder when we were kids." "This is a game to you?" Vegeta responds, "By no means. Didn't I tell you I wanted you to know nothing you did would matter? Give me your best shot," said Rigor. "You want my best shot?" Vegeta yells. "Fine." He begins charging his ki, focusing it all in his right hand. "Let's see how you like this," Vegeta yells, sending his now iconic Final Shine attack towards Rigor. Rigor begins to yell and then simply kicks Vegeta's attack. Alright, we have to stop here for a second because this is insane. Vegeta's Final Shine attack isn't just any old regular attack. This is his finisher. This is the upgraded version of his Final Flash attack, which in itself is a finisher. So this is the finisher of finishers, and it's even more powerful when he's in his Super Saiyan 4 form. His ultimate attack, and Rigor simply deflects it. This is crazy, but let's continue. "Impossible," said Vegeta, in disbelief. Piccolo and Mr. Popo, who are still observing the fight from Kami's lookout, cannot believe what just happened. "This isn't good," said Mr. Popo. "Popo, hail the Kaioshin. Son Goku must know about this," said Piccolo, as Mr. Popo runs off to contact Goku. Sensing the battle, Goten breaks into cold sweat. The same happens to Trunks, who is with his girlfriend. She asks, "What's the matter, Trunks?" He responds, "It's hard to explain, Emmy." Back on the battlefield, Vegeta has lost his aura, putting most of his energy into that attack. Rigor simply stands there, an immovable wall, looking at Vegeta. "How does it feel, Vegeta?" He says, "How does it feel to face a future you cannot change? A fate you cannot outrun? How does it feel to know that for all your touted might, you are completely, utterly powerless? I've borne that very weight for decades, haunted by your cruelty, tormented endlessly by what you've done. So much so that I can never sleep without divisions. I can't remember the last time I slept through the night." Off to the side, Sapari is moved by Rigor's words. He continues, "You really don't remember, do you?" Then he begins looking at his left hand. This turns into a memory of him looking at the same hand when he was much younger, covered with blood and bruises. On the next panel, we see him as a child, banging on the glass of a Saiyan capsule with the text, "I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. After all, how many lives have you snuffed out without a second thought?" Rigor is in tears, and it looks like he's being protected by someone. "How would her death be any different?" he said, as a bloody, beaten Saiyan stands in front of him, surrounded by the silhouettes of her attackers. "Her who?" asks Vegeta. Still looking at his hand, Rigor responds, "Decades ago, I made a promise to a life that you destroyed." On the next page, we see a furious Rigor with an image of his mother, Peppra, in the background. The story continues with Vegeta still being confused about what exactly he did to Rigor. Vegeta says, "A life that I destroyed?" And then Rigor begins his story. He says, "It was a year after what happened on planet Palm. My mother was an elite Saiyan. She worked under your father, King Vegeta. Sapari, who is Rigor's wife, lived with us at the time. I was in the infirmary healing a broken arm. My mother had left for a mission of her own after I went in, but Sapari was there to meet me after I came out. We headed for home, only stopping long enough to see mother's friend along the way." By the way, this is Gine, Goku's mom. That's the friend. "But when we got home, I knew something was wrong. And I was right. A Saiyan warrior was there, waiting for us. He was so strong, I tried to fight back, but couldn't defend myself against him. But then, he hit Sapari, and I saw red. I don't know how, but Sapari told me I killed him in a single blow. I was hurt, but we were alive. That's when my mother stumbled in, beaten and bloodied. Her own squad turned on her. They said she was a traitor, but I know my mother. She never would have betrayed the king." We get a couple close-ups of Vegeta's face. It seems like he's starting to remember what Rigor is talking about. Rigor continues, "She said more were coming, and we had to escape. We kept 2 emergency pods at the back of our home. She hurried us into them and set the coordinates. But before we knew it, more soldiers came. There was no time left. She must have known she wouldn't make it, and neither would we if she didn't stay to hold them off. I tried to get out. I couldn't just watch her die. But she clicked on the pod's remote to launch as soon as the engines were ready. As she did, she was shot in the back, murdered in cold blood. And the bastard who did it, I mean, you guys could all already imagine who it was, right? We see a smoking finger of the person who fired the key blast. And on the next page, it's revealed that it's young Vegeta. "You," Rigor says. Just look at that smirk on Vegeta's face. On the next page, we're back to the fight. It looks like something finally snapped for Vegeta. He finally remembers what Rigor is talking about. Rigor continues by saying, "So much has occurred since then, but I can never forget what happened that night. I can never." And we see this aura seeping into his eyes and eventually bubbling around his body. This is really dope for a lot of reasons. First of all, it looks a bit like the aura Naruto used to get from the QB. The flashback also just did a pretty good job at setting up some sort of secret power for Rigor. Remember, when his eyes started to go red, he instantly one-shotted the warrior who hit Sapari. So this red power, whatever it is, clearly takes Rigor's strength to another level. And so far in the fight, Rigor is just as strong, if not stronger, than Vegeta. So this red power, this other level, clearly Vegeta currently does not have an answer to this if it shows up. The backstory is also crazy because it sets up Rigor's motivation perfectly. And ultimately, it's probably the reason why this story is one of my favorites, because it raises these questions of morality. First of all, who is the bad guy here? We all love Vegeta because that's who we know. But should Rigor just forgive him for killing his mother? Should Rigor just say, okay, you're a changed man, forget it, we're cool now? I mean, I feel like if I was Rigor, I would be doing the same thing. It reminds me of the scene from what I think was Civil War, the Marvel movie, where Captain America tells Iron Man, fighting us now isn't going to change anything. And Iron Man says,
I don't care. He killed my mom.
I don't care. He killed my mom. That line just moves me. I don't care about what you have to say, bro. Like, you killed my mom. I don't care about any of this stuff. So, I really like Rigor's motivation. Even the way his powers manifest themselves through his eyes. The same way our sadness manifests themselves through tears. I feel like I can talk about this forever. But let's keep going with the story. All around the planet, the remaining Z Warriors sense the immense leap in Rigor's power. Trunks, who is with his girlfriend in a flying car, tells her, take the controls. I have to go. He exits the car and begins flying to Vegeta's location. Goten, who is also with a girl named Palace, says, Palace, I gotta go. He tries to play it off and says, I'll be right back. I'm just heading to the bathroom. Then he also flies to Vegeta's location, saying to himself, I'm sorry, Palace. I'll make it up to you, but I can't ignore this. Vegeta's in trouble. We get another close-up of this power seeping out of Rigor's body. Then a shot of an astonished Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. He says, what kind of power is that? But Sapari looks worried. She says, oh no, not again, and rushes towards Rigor. Vegeta says, what's she doing? As Sapari stands in front of Rigor and says, beloved, please, you need to calm down. She grabs his face in both of her palms and says, look at me, beloved. Come back to me. Come back from that place. I'm here. Rigor begins to remember himself again, saying, Sapari? He says to her, I'm sorry. I got carried away. It's alright, my love, responds Sapari. You're back now. Watching all of this, Vegeta says, what just happened? At the same time, Sapari says to Rigor, you're getting too worked up. You shouldn't drag this on for too long. You're right, Rigor responds. Let's get this over with. Over on Kami's lookout, Mr. Popo is communicating with the Supreme Kai via his crystal ball. We catch the end of the conversation where Mr. Popo says, and that's the trouble we find ourselves in. Goku should be made aware. We fear that Vegeta may fall in this battle if left alone. It's kind of sad they don't believe in Vegeta, but hey, Supreme Kai responds, that's indeed a dire predicament, Mr. Popo. I will inform Goku. At the same time, there's an explosion behind him. He turns around upset just as soon as he stops wrecking our planet. Popo turns around to Piccolo saying, Piccolo, we managed to reach the Kais, but Piccolo? Piccolo is gone. Just his weighted armor remains. After sensing Rigor's power, he's also heading to the battlefield. Even Pan at school can sense Rigor's immense ki. She's with her mom, who asks, Pan, are you okay? Are you cold or something? He says, no, I'm fine. And to herself, she thinks, that big power shot up even higher than before. I want to go help, but I'll just be in the way, like last time. Let me just say, I really like the approach to Pan in a lot of these stories. She's way more mature than she was in GT. Anyway, let's keep going. Back to the fight. Rigor is thrashing Vegeta. He stands above him and says, you know, it's hard to imagine as I stand here now that at one time you seemed like darkness incarnate to me. I thought those words you spoke on Planet Palm would always hold true, that I could never catch up to you, the prince. It would seem my hatred has been a powerful motivator. Vegeta looks up at him furious. Rigor continues, now you can join your black-hearted father in the afterlife, and my mother's soul can finally rest. Rigor is seconds away from delivering his final attack when he senses an incoming ki blast. He's hit from behind, indirectly sheltering Vegeta from the attack. Vegeta leaps out of the way, and Rigor menacingly looks back at him. Next to Vegeta, Piccolo lands. Sapari says, where did he come from? There was no reading on the scope. This is pretty dope. It implies that Piccolo is a lot stronger than we remember him. But Rigor didn't seem to care much. He looks at Piccolo and says, what is this? Do you fight for Vegeta? Piccolo responds, for him, no. With him, begrudgingly. You're his ally then, Rigor asks. But before Piccolo could respond, Sapari picks up the power level of more approaching fighters. On the next page, Trunks and Goten have arrived. The Z Warriors are standing, allied with Vegeta. More of them? said Rigor. Trunks says to Vegeta, Dad, are you okay? Dad, another child? Rigor says. Vegeta responds, you're all foolish for coming here. Trunks then says to him, you say that like it's something new. Goten then asks, who is this guy? His ki is insane. Vegeta, with a somber look, says, it doesn't matter. Rigor overtakes the conversation by saying, I warn you all now, this matter is between Vegeta and I alone. Should you continue to interfere, I will hold no guilt in going through you to get to him. I'm loving this so much right now. Like, whose side are you guys on? Who needs to win this right now? Let's continue though. Trunks says, so what's the plan? To Vegeta. Vegeta responds, don't have one. He's much stronger than I thought he'll be, and might even be stronger still. Piccolo says, stronger still? Are you for certain? Vegeta gives him a stern look and says, in his rage, his power began to climb at an almost exponential rate. I believe that what we feel from him now is only marginally what he's fully capable of. This is one thing I love about Vegeta. He completely gets it. Vegeta is a genius fighter. And although he is willing to fight people who are stronger than him, it's never in this wishful, uncalculated way. Anyway, let's keep going. Rigor is unimpressed. Goten says, well, that's just spectacular. So what then? Vegeta looks annoyed and says, without that clown Kakarot, implying that maybe if Goku was there, they would have a chance. We all know how much Vegeta hates having to rely on Goku. The fact that he's even considering it is a testament to just how much of a threat Rigor is. Vegeta says, Piccolo, can you regain his attention for at least a full minute? Piccolo inquisitively looks at Vegeta and then eventually with a smirk says, pawns, are we? I don't think making him angrier is a good idea, but with the three of us, a full minute might be doable. Then, Vegeta says, I may have a way. You may have a way? Piccolo says, yes, it's a long shot, but it's the best I can come up with, Vegeta responds. And you require but a single minute. Piccolo follows up. At least, said Vegeta, and get him into the air. I can't release this in any direction but up. Otherwise, it might break the earth. It seems they're making a plan, Saipari says to Rigor. Rigor responds to her, you shouldn't be so close. I don't want you to get hurt. Likewise, said Saipari. Just be careful. Keep your guard up, and keep your temper under control. Please. Very well, Piccolo said to Vegeta. 1 minute at least. And then Vegeta grabs his arm. Piccolo, we only get one shot at this. There is no do-over if I miss. Piccolo looks at him and says, in that case, you'd best see to it that your aim is true. Such a dope moment. Very rarely do we see Vegeta respect the Z-Warriors, especially someone like Piccolo. And here he's doing it, which again implies that Piccolo isn't just some fodder to him, like he is in Dragon Ball Super. Anyway, Piccolo begins his approach to Rigor. Rigor says to Saipari, get back, Saipari. Piccolo then says to Trunks and Goten, Goten, Trunks, we're going to need the heavy hitter for this one. We all know what that means, right? Trunks and Goten look at each other with a smirk as Piccolo charges Rigor by himself. Attacking alone? Is he insane? Rigor is the one saying this, while Piccolo is saying to himself, this is gonna hurt. He punches Rigor and unflinchingly, Rigor stares at him directly in his eyes. Piccolo follows up with a flurry of attacks, and although Rigor can visually keep up with all of them, he doesn't even bother to dodge. Rigor then clenches his fist and delivers an earth-shattering blow to the side of Piccolo's face. It sends Piccolo's upper body smashing into the ground. Rigor then says, one obstacle removed. Now before he could finish that statement, he's attacked. A smirking face says, sorry to keep you waiting, but the Grim Reaper Gotenks has made his return. Super dope. This is a full panel of grown Gotenks. I can't wait till we get to see him in Dragon Ball Super. After Trunks and Goten age a bit, Goten is in his Super Saiyan 3 form right away. Saipari says, who is that? Where'd the other two go? Piccolo says to Goten, you could have gotten here a little sooner. Goten responds, hey, sorry, old man, but this was much more dramatic. Piccolo says back to him, I thought getting older would have fixed that attitude. Off to the side, Vegeta is watching. He smirks and says, good job, boys. Then, he extends his arms and begins to channel a massive amount of ki. Vegeta is preparing an attack the likes of which we've never seen before. Off to the side, Saipari says, what is he doing? At the same time, Piccolo and Gotenks are giving it their all to try and subdue Rigor. Piccolo has him in a headlock, while Gotenks delivers his attacks from the front. Rigor then knocks Gotenks away with a powerful punch, then reaches behind his head and grabs Piccolo by the back, swinging him upside down to his front, and then kicks Piccolo in the same direction as Goten. This attack seemed to do some serious damage to Piccolo. Gotenks, however, still has some fight in him. He says, "Sit this out, Piccolo. I got this," and charges back at Rigor. Rigor begins his flurry of attacks against Gotenks, who's actually managing to dodge them. He says, "Come on. How did Vegeta get knocked around by a slowpoke like you?" This infuriates Rigor, who continues his barrage of attacks. In the middle of the fight, however, a special beam cannon is fired at him from Piccolo. Rigor deflects this attack, sending it flying far into the distance. This surprises even Piccolo. The special beam cannon is his strongest attack. Gotenks yells to him, "Piccolo, don't worry about me. Just protect Vegeta." Off to the side, Vegeta is still powering up. On her scouter, Saipari cannot believe what's happening to Vegeta's power level. She says no way, his rating doubled, no, tripled. Gotenks manages to send Rigor flying into the sky and then uses his famous special ability, Galactic Donut, which is just a series of rings, circles created out of his ki to restrict Rigor's movements. Gotenks says, "I've got to be honest. I wasn't sure if that would work on you. I'll give it to you. You were tough, but even you weren't a match for the tactical genius of the mighty Gotenks." Furious, Rigor begins to power up. Piccolo yells, "Get away from him!" Rigor breaks the Galactic Donut, and before Gotenks can get out of the way, he grabs him by the mouth, telling him, "Be quiet," and then hits him with a punch so powerful it creates a shockwave between the two. The punch sends Gotenks flying towards the ground, and the impact was strong enough to instantly defuse Trunks and Goten. Rigor yells, "Enough! I will not be distracted any..." And again, before he could finish his sentence, he is surrounded by hundreds of floating orbs of ki. With a smirk, Piccolo says, "Didn't see that coming, did you?" And then collapses all the ki balls onto Rigor's body. It creates a massive explosion. Over his shoulder, Piccolo yells, "Vegeta, are you done yet? I've used up all my ki, and all we've done is..." But then Piccolo finally senses what's going on with Vegeta. As the dust clears on Rigor, he notices Vegeta too. At this point, Vegeta's power is unbelievable. Saipari says, "This rating, it can't be." With an evil look on his face, Vegeta says to Rigor, "Okay, let's see you kick this one." "Beloved, watch out," yells Saipari, as Vegeta sends his massive attack upwards towards Rigor. Merged Final Atomic Shine, he calls it. This attack is crazy. I can't imagine seeing something like this animated. Just a massive, electrifying ki blast with Vegeta at its base. The attack blows Saipari and Piccolo away, and there is no time for Rigor to dodge. The attack connects, shaking the entire planet. The blast is so powerful it creates a crater where Vegeta stood. As the dust clears, Piccolo, barely managing to sit up, says, "Unbelievable." Saipari says, "No, Rigor." The dust clears further to show Vegeta completely drained of all his ki. His eyes are blank, and he collapses. Such strength. Piccolo is amazed by what he just saw. He's so beaten up, he says, "Hard to sense anything right now, but I don't feel any ki." "Damn it," says Saipari. "Work, you stupid thing." Talking about her scouter. "Please," she says, "don't be dead." Standing at the brink of the crater, Piccolo says, "I can barely see the bottom." And then he hears a voice. Piccolo! Behind him, Trunks and Goten are coming to their feet. "Ow, my head," says Goten. "You two did well," said Piccolo with a smile. "Hey, where's Vegeta?" Goten asked. "It may be a false hope, but it would appear he succeeded," Piccolo responds. "Go bring him up. I doubt he can move himself," Piccolo said to the two boys, as they both jump into the crater to retrieve Vegeta. But then, Piccolo begins to sense something behind him. Before we find out what that is, the story flashes over to the Ryushin realm, where for the first time, we learn what's going on with Goku, Gohan, and Oob. The three of them are training in the realm of the Kais, completely unaware of what's happening on Earth. Just as a quick side note, this isn't a small deal, especially for Gohan. Remember that training under the supervision of the Kais with the Z-Sword in the Ryushin realm and getting his powers partially unlocked was how we saw that massive leap in power for Gohan, how he unlocked Mystic Form in Dragon Ball Z. And this was a pretty quick process, I think 24 hours or something. So depending on how long Gohan, Goku, and Oob have been training here, it could mean major things for their current power level. Dad, did you feel that? Said Gohan to Goku. Goku responds, yeah, a massive power coming from Earth. Oob says, maybe Vegeta's getting a little too into his training. Goku responds, I don't think so. Something doesn't feel right. I feel. Right then, the old Kai jumps in, angry, yelling at Goku, saying, it's about time you stop your training. I can't even try to get close to you when you're all fired up. Goku says to him, old timer, do you know anything about what's going on? The Supreme Kai gives him a stern look. We flash back over to Earth, where Goten and Trunks fly Vegeta up from the crater he created. Piccolo says to Vegeta, are you alright, Vegeta? Vegeta responds, I think so. Sapari, furious, yells, you bastard. You killed him. Responding to her, Piccolo says he didn't have and then Sapari cuts him off. No, this is none of your business. I can't believe how stupid I was. I was starting to think that you had changed, but I was wrong. You're the same monster you've always been. I should kill you myself for what you've done. Then her scouter begins to go off. What? She says. This reading. At the same time, Piccolo, Vegeta, Trunks, Goten started sensing this massive ki. No, Piccolo says. It can't be. There. They all look to the sky as a shadowy figure crash lands in front of them. No way, says Vegeta, as the dust begins to clear. Rigor returns. Rigor, yelled Sapari. And then we get a full body shot of Rigor. He's a little beaten up, but it seems like he's doing much better than Vegeta is. This is a beautiful shot, by the way. Sapari rushes to Rigor. My love, she says. I thought I had lost you. Rigor responds, I'm sorry I worried you. Then he gives the Z Warriors a cold look. Settling his eyes on Vegeta, he says, even I thought you got me with that one. Only my master has ever hit me hard enough to force me into my assault form. Now I really want to know who his master was. Anyway, he continues, in that regard, Vegeta, you have my respect. At the same time, in the Ryushin realm, Goku is suiting up. He puts on his normal gi and says, let's go. Back on Earth, Rigor approaches the Z Warriors. They're all pretty beaten up and will likely not survive a full attack from Rigor, especially Vegeta and Piccolo. So as Rigor approaches, Trunks attempts to cut him off. And this is a beautiful shot. Rigor isn't actually this much bigger than Trunks, but the shot symbolizes the difference in power. I remember the Anime Kingdom used to do this a lot, where they drew more powerful people slightly bigger, and it just really set the tone of the scene. I think this idea is super dope. Anyway, Vegeta yells, Trunks, knowing that an attack from Rigor at this point will kill Trunks. Staring down at him, Rigor says to Trunks, move, boy. Trunks responds, not on your life. And Vegeta yells, don't, he's too much for you. Coldly, Rigor looks Trunks directly in the eyes and says, move or be moved. Crazy. Trunks begins to power up, yelling, no. Unimpressed, Rigor stares him directly in the face. He then says, your staunch defiance in defense of him is admirable. You remind me of my son, but this is your choice. I gotta find out more about Rigor. I gotta meet his family, his son, his mentor. I mean, this is all pretty crazy stuff. Anyway, he continues with a kill shot. A punch aimed directly at Trunks' face. The punch connects, but everyone is shocked. In the next panel, we see why. Someone grabs the punch, and then we get this beautiful shot from Rigor's perspective. It's Goku, Gohan, and Oob. They've arrived. Goku says to Rigor, in his normal nonchalance, yo, super dope. Super dope. There are only a few things in this world as satisfying as a Goku entrance. It reminds me of when he showed up on planet Namek to take out the Ginyu Force. But let's just say Rigor isn't the Ginyu Force. Anyway, back to the story. Dad, yelled Goten. Hey, sorry we're late. More interlopers, said Rigor. Just how many of you are there? Looking at him with a smile, Goku says, so you're the guy making all this fuss. Oh yeah, I can tell you're strong. Rigor responds, this whole damn world is willing to give up itself for you, Vegeta. Goku continues, I'm sorry guys, we only had one senzu bean. Vegeta says, just give it to me, you dolt. Piccolo chimes in, indeed, there's not much sense in restoring the rest of us. You two are the only ones who stand a chance. Senzu beans always coming in clutch. Saipari and Rigor notice that Vegeta's energy went back to normal. While Gohan asks Goku, what do you want us to do, Dad? Goku responds, y'all should go. If he's this tough, then Vegeta and we gotta go all out. Vegeta tells Goku, frankly, even together, I don't much like our odds. He took everything I had and stood up to it. Gohan says, but, and then Piccolo cuts him off. No, they're right, he says. At this point, we're little more than collateral damage. If we stay, it's best we remove ourselves from the equation. Gohan doesn't like this much, but says, fine, we'll let you go, but if you get in trouble, we'll come running. Got it? Then Goku gives him the thumbs up. They should be far enough away by now, Goku says to Vegeta. Rigor says, why? Why do you all continue to throw yourself into the fire for him, after all the suffering he's caused? Goku responds, that stuff happened ages ago. Vegeta's changed a lot, you know. I mean, he's still a jerk sometimes, but whatever. I want to talk about this for a quick second because I'm curious as to whether any of you guys have ever been in a situation like this before. I'm sure some of you have heard the phrase that forgiveness isn't for the person that you're forgiven, it's more for yourself. And if you refuse to forgive someone, they get to live in your mind rent-free. And in theory, that's I think easy to understand. But in practice, I feel like some things are just past that point. Like Vegeta killed Rigor's mom. How do you forgive that? Even if Vegeta has changed, how do you deal with that? So I'm just curious as to whether any of you guys have been in a situation where you had to forgive someone, and were you able to do it? If so, please share it in the comments below. I would love to read it. Hashtag forgiveness and then share your comment. I'll respond to all of them that I can. Anyway, back to the story. Rigor says to Goku, so you won't step aside then? And then Goku says, no way. Now's my chance to fight another full-blooded Saiyan. I want to see what kind of techniques you got. This will be fun. Fun, Rigor says. This is a game to you. Furious, Rigor responds, it doesn't matter. If you wish to stand with him, then you can fall with him as well. Saipari takes cover, but she notices something about Goku. She says, that one. At the same time, Goku says to Vegeta, how do you want to go about this? Vegeta says, if we want to live, then we'll best go all out at the start. Goku says, not really my style, but okay. And the two instantly transform to Super Saiyan 4 respectively. Beautiful shot. I can only imagine this being animated. It'll just be so dope. To himself, Rigor says, they both have forms like my assault form, and Vegeta's last attack weakened me. Against two, my battle form might not be enough, and he also begins to power up. Full body shot. For the first time, we get to see that what Rigor is calling his assault form is his own unique Super Saiyan 4 transformation. Goku and Vegeta are both surprised by this. Some distance away, Gohan and Piccolo can sense Rigor's transformation. All three Saiyans charge each other, and the battle begins. The story continues with Vegeta being the first to reach Rigor. They are inches away from what looks like would be a collision of fists. Rigor, however, outspeeds Vegeta, ducking his fist below Vegeta's and instead delivering a powerful right-handed jab to Vegeta's midsection. The blow sends Vegeta flying, his body crashing into a pile of rocks not too far away. Instantly, however, before Rigor could recover, Vegeta is replaced by Goku, who attacks Rigor with a flying drop kick. Milliseconds before the kick connects, Rigor speed blitzes Goku, causing Goku's kick to connect with an after image. Rigor follows up with a right-handed jab, which Goku manages to deflect, but the impact of the deflection is so powerful, it sends a wave of power across the ground. And then, before he can react, another right-handed jab. This time, it connects directly to the side of Goku's face, sending him flying, crashing right next to Vegeta. Ow, Goku says. Focus, you idiot, Vegeta says to him. They both charge Rigor at the same time, and what follows is a beautiful double panel of a flurry of attacks from Goku and Vegeta, kicks and punches, all being caught or deflected by Rigor. On the next panel, Oob, Trunks, Goten, Piccolo, and Gohan, who are now a few miles away from the battle, can still sense the fight. Oob says, unreal. Gohan says, I can't believe we can feel the pressure from here. Back to the fight. Both Goku and Vegeta are being overwhelmed. Vegeta says, damn, he's so much stronger than before. Too strong. Then Goku notices something. He says, no, look, we're on the losing end, but look at him. He's burning through his stamina way faster than we are. You're right, Vegeta said. Goku continues, we just need to press him. Don't give him a chance to catch his breath. If we can wear him down, we might stand a chance. As if he heard them, Rigor charged them both, starting his own attack. And on the next page, Goku and Vegeta are pressed with Rigor's flurry of attack. The flurry ends with a sidekick to Goku and another body punch to Vegeta, sending him flying again. We can visibly see the toll the fight is taking on Rigor's stamina, but he ignores it and charges at Vegeta. Goku teleports in front of Vegeta, yelling, cover your eyes, and then use Solar Flare. The technique temporarily blinds Rigor, who grabs his face while Goku and Vegeta rally together, preparing an attack. Let's go, Goku yells, as they charge Rigor together. This time, their flurry of attacks are much more effective against a blinded Rigor. After gaining a bit of ground, Goku yells, now is our chance. Vegeta responds, right. The two teleport inches away from Rigor. Goku starts preparing a Kamehameha while Vegeta prepares a Gallic gun. The two release a double attack from point blank, engulfing Rigor's body. Rigor is blasted away, yelling, damn you, as the attacks send him flying. The ki blasts themselves are like continuous explosions, forcing Sapari off to the side to try and protect herself by crossing her arms. Even Goku and Vegeta look fatigued, releasing that much energy. As the smoke begins to clear, Gohan asks Piccolo, did you feel that? Dad and Vegeta are unreal. Piccolo responds, hard as it is to fathom, those two are far beyond even what they were when they fought the evil dragon. The dust clears enough for Vegeta to notice the movement of some rocks where Rigor's body landed. Kakarot, he said to Goku. Goku responds, yeah, he's mad. And then Rigor begins to power up, forcing both Goku and Vegeta to shield their eyes from the sudden burst of energy. On the next page, however, we see that burst of energy was the last Rigor had in him. His eyes begin to lower, and he slumps to the ground. Goku says, that's it. It's over. Damn it, Rigor says to himself. Please, just stay down, Vegeta says. Is this how it's going to end? Again? Have all the trials been for nothing? Mother, Rigor says to himself. No, he then says. Sapari off to the side says, that look in your eye. Beloved, what are you? Wait. And then with resolve, Rigor says, there is one last thing. The next chapter starts with a flashback from several years earlier on a planet named Makama. We see a giant explosion of energy and the text, beloved, say something. Are you alright? On the next page, we see Sapari holding a severely weakened Rigor. Sapari, he says, what happened? I can't move. Beloved, you, Sapari responds. When a third voice says, that's it. I'm afraid it would seem that you've reached your limit. Master, Rigor said to the voice. I don't, but then he's cut off. I had hoped through this training that you would learn to let go of this hatred within you. As you are, the mixing of these unfathomable energies with such a tempest produces disastrous result. You can progress no further. Please, he needs this, Sapari says to the mystery master. So long as he harbors this grudge, his strength will be all he has, never peace. Until such a time, I have nothing more to teach you. Let go of the past. And with that, we're brought back to the fight. Rigor, struggling on the brink of collapse, says to himself, let go of the past? The past is why I've gotten this far. How can I let go? I gave up everything just to get here. For this one moment, I won't let him get away. Not this time. I will show him, Rigor says, as he pushes his fist against the ground to stand up. To himself, he says, I don't know how long my body will last. The last time nearly killed me, but with it, I can end him for certain. Rigor then begins to power up. Goku goes, that again, what's he up to? Vegeta says, nothing good. Sapari off to the side, shocked, says, he can't be doing it. Screaming, Rigor begins to let out this hidden power. It seems to morph the very air around him with what looks like almost black flame. No, Sapari yells. Some distance away, Gohan and Piccolo notice Rigor's energy extended into the sky, changing the patterns of the clouds. What in the world is happening? Gohan says. Piccolo responds, a violent, raging tempest of ki. It almost feels like what? Trunks asks. Like when Son Goku became a god. Gohan looks at Piccolo, shocked. This is really interesting because so far, the Rigor story has been following what happens after Dragon Ball GT. But with the Dragon Ball timeline as a whole, technically Dragon Ball Super and Goku becoming a god, Ultra Instinct, etc. would happen before GT. So in this story, Goku becomes a god like he did in Dragon Ball Super, but he also attains Super Saiyan 4 like he did in Dragon Ball GT. Which is interesting because we see him using Super Saiyan 4 instead of Ultra Instinct in his fight, which implies that Super Saiyan 4 would be stronger. Or, for some reason, he no longer has access to God powers at the moment. Anyway, it's a pretty cool concept and a pretty big reveal about this world. But let's continue. Gohan instantly charges back towards the fight. Gohan, Piccolo yells. As Oob, Trunks, and Goten follow Gohan, Piccolo says to himself, "You damn fools." Back to the fight. Rigor is still powering up, and his body is almost smoldering. Vegeta says, "This is that power from before," while Sapari says, "Beloved, please, you have to stop." But Rigor is letting it all go. On the next page, there's a beautiful full panel of this power-up, and it looks almost as if he's surrounded by Hakai energy. There's also a distinct change in his eyes, around his pupils. Goku says, "Wait, I know this power." The color of Rigor's hair begins to change. To himself, Rigor says, "Don't lose yourself to the power. Remember the training. Reel the power in. Take it and make it your own." And then there's a massive explosion around him. On the next page, the dust begins to clear and Goku and Vegeta are in shock as we get the first few glimpses of Rigor's new transformation. Goku says, "This is," and then finally, on the next panel, we get a full body shot of Rigor, who seems to have undergone his own Super Saiyan 4 God transformation. It looks like a combination of Hakai and Saiyan energy. Pretty dope. On the next panel, Vegeta says, "Kakarot, do you feel that? His ki, it just vanished." Goku continues, "That energy, the power surrounding him, I felt it once before. It felt just like Lord Beerus." But before Goku could finish his word, suddenly Goku is aware of Rigor's blow approaching the side of his head. The next panel shows Goku removed from the spot he was standing, too slow to even react. He's sent flying. Vegeta yells, "Kakarot," while in the same instant he becomes aware of his own threat. This is a tiny bit funny, but a One Punch Man style death punch is aimed at Vegeta. The blow connects, sending Vegeta across the battlefield, where he crashes into a pile of rocks, coughing up blood. A stone cold look is on Rigor's face when suddenly he's approached by Sapari. Standing in front of him, she raises her hand and says, "Beloved, that's enough. They're beaten. Now please, you have to get out of that form." By the way, from these panels, it looks like Rigor's Super Saiyan 4 fur is black, which is pretty cool. Anyway, Rigor puts his hand on the side of Sapari's face. She's happy. She says, "That's it, beloved. It's over now. We can finally put all of this behind." Then Rigor cuts her off and says, "Leave. While I can still control myself, leave." Then he walks away from her. On the next page, we get a scene on another planet at the same moment, far across space. Someone says, "What is that? Could it be?" It looks like a warrior who's just defeated his enemies. He says to himself, "I felt a sudden burst, an explosion of godly energy very far away. Intriguing, most unexpected. I had been searching for so long. I was beginning to think an opportunity like this would not come." I don't know who this person is. He looks almost a little bit like Jiren. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, he goes, "At least now I know which direction to head." Back to the fight on Earth. Vegeta and Goku are trying to regroup while Rigor marched towards them. Goku says, "Ouch, only been a few minutes, and I feel like he's been pounding on us for hours." Pause. Vegeta responds, "Doesn't make any sense." Goku says, "What doesn't make sense?" Vegeta says, "It's like he's dragging this thing out. I mean, look at us. He could have killed us both in an instant." "Yeah," said Goku. "So why hasn't he?" Vegeta said. I was kind of thinking the same thing. That death punch from earlier, why didn't that take Vegeta out? Let's see. On the next page, we get a glimpse into Rigor's thoughts. "What am I doing? I need to finish this. I need to..." And then it's almost as if a second personality takes over and says, "Make him pay." Goku says to Vegeta, "Well, I'm out of ideas. How about you?" Vegeta responds, "One of us becoming a god is a no-go in that case. I can't wait till this gets explained more. Why can't they use God Ki currently?" Anyway, let's keep going. Rigor charges between the two. And then Vegeta says to Goku, "Kakarot, our only chance is to fuse." Goku says, "Alright, let's do it." This is a little strange. I mean, I don't think Vegeta has ever suggested a fusion. I think it would have been better if Goku was the one who suggested a fusion. Like, no matter how dire the situation, Vegeta always needs to be convinced to fuse. But it is what it is. Let's keep going. Rigor grabs both of their ankles and then says, "What do you mean fuse? Do you mean that technique those kids used?" Then he slams them together, then toss their limp bodies in opposite direction. He says, "Not gonna happen." He then zeroes in on Vegeta, who can barely stand at this point, and charges at him with this unbridled rage, yelling, "Die, Vegeta." However, in the nick of time, he's blindsided by Gohan, who may have actually saved Vegeta's life. Vegeta says, "Gohan, what are you doing here?" Gohan responds, "We can talk about it later. Whatever you and Dad are going to do, hurry up and do it." Vegeta smiles as Rigor quickly begin to recover from Gohan's surprise attack. Rigor says, "They interfered again. Every time they interfere. Over and over and over." And you can see the more Rigor used this god power, Hakai energy, the more corrupted he appears to be getting. His eyes are getting darker and darker. His pupils is almost like he's losing himself. Anyway, let's continue. Piccolo arrives at Goku's side, telling him, "We can only buy you a few seconds. Get it right the first time." Goku responds with a small smile, saying, "Sure thing." Rigor, enraged, begins to charge the Z Warriors. Goku says to Vegeta, "You ready, Vegeta?" Vegeta responds, "As I'll ever be." "No," Rigor yelled. Mid-charge, Piccolo responds by yelling to everyone else, letting them know he's coming. Then in a double panel spread, Rigor plows through Trunks, Piccolo, and Oob. I'm not too sure what's going on with Oob's neck in this image, but other than that, the way this spread is drawn is pretty crazy. As he's charging, Goku and Vegeta have already started the fusion dance. Rigor looks like he's on the brink of his sanity, says no. And then Goten and Gohan are in front of him. Gohan says to Goten, "Get ready." They're the last two Z Warriors standing, trying to buy Goku and Vegeta a couple more seconds, but Rigor isn't having it. He sends a single punch that looks like it has the intent of killing them both in one blow. At that moment, however, Goku and Vegeta complete the fusion dance, and there is a bright light behind the three Saiyans. On the next page, we get the first look of Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, but Rigor isn't impressed. He says, "You," referring to Gohan and Goten, "won't interfere again," attempting to finish the killing blow he started earlier. But before his punch could connect, Gohan and Goten disappear. Rigor looks at the spot where they were standing and says, "Where did they go?" Even Gohan and Goten are shocked. "What just happened?" Gohan said. Off to the side, looking at the newcomer, Sapari says, "Who is that?" And then, for the first time, Rigor and Gogeta lock eyes. On the next page, we get a beautiful shot of Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. And I feel like this is where the real fight begins. One of the things I like about this is that they're both on a time limit. We know fusions always have a time limit, but Rigor is clearly also on his own time limit. It seems like he's losing himself to madness. And in that flashback, it appears that after that happens, he just passes out. He explodes, it looks like. So I really like how it's not a lopsided fight. They're both under pressure to win quickly. Anyway, let's continue. The fight begins with a stare down between Gogeta and Rigor. Rigor is literally growling. He's so frustrated with the fight so far, while Gogeta just has a look of resolve. This scene is a little bit funny. Gohan, still on the ground behind him, says, "Dad, Vegito?" And Gogeta corrects him by saying, "No, Gogeta." Gohan then says, "Right. What should we do?" Gogeta responds, "Take the others and get far away. I can't fight him as long as I have to worry about you." Goten says, "But what if you..." And Gogeta cuts him off. "No buts, and don't come back until it's over, no matter what. It's just me he wants." Gohan and Goten reluctantly agree, and they fly off to collect the others. Piccolo telling Gohan thank you, and Oob groaning. But nevertheless, the 5 Z Warriors fly away from the fight. Oob asks Gohan as they're flying away, "Gohan, are we sure?" Gohan responds, "They are," talking about Gogeta. On the next page, we get a nice side-by-side panel. Gogeta says to Rigor, "They're gone now. It's just the two of us. You wanted to settle the score?" Rigor, still furious, doesn't respond. He just growls. But there's a look of frustration on his face. Gogeta continues, "What's wrong? It can't be that you're afraid." Gogeta is doing a little bit of smack talking. This is one thing I do like about the fusions, by the way, how confident they are. Anyway, hearing this ticks Rigor off even more. Gogeta continues, "You were high and mighty when you were the strongest. Are you afraid you'll fail?" And then for the first time, Rigor speaks to Gogeta. He says, "I only wanted Vegeta." Gogeta responds, "Too late. Besides, he's still in here with the other guy. It's just now the playing field is a bit more even." Rigor says, "As long as he's dead, I suppose it doesn't matter what form he takes." "Right," Gogeta said, as he sighs. And then the fight begins. Rigor is the first to attack, charging with a flying right jab. Gogeta readies himself. There is a huge collision of ki as Rigor's punch lands. "What?" said Rigor, as he notices Gogeta catches it. It's different now. It's different from when he was just smacking them around, obviously. Rigor throws another punch, and Gogeta catches that one too, even though it's powerful enough to make them the epicenter of a giant explosion of ki and sound. They aren't even trading blows yet. Gogeta just stopped a couple of Rigor's punches, but the battlefield around them is being destroyed. Sappari off to the side, protecting herself, says, "Impossible." The two warriors stand locked in place, Gogeta hanging on to both of Rigor's fists. I like this side-by-side panel, although Gogeta looks a lot more calm than Rigor. I think if nothing else, it feels as if Rigor's time limit is much closer to running out than Gogeta's is. But I feel like power-wise, Rigor can definitely keep up with Gogeta, or we'll see. On the next page, Gogeta breaks the power struggle by pushing Rigor's arms to the side and moving to deliver his first attack of the fight, a strong right hand punch. It connects, causing clear and solid damage to Rigor. And then, Gogeta begins a ruthless flurry of attacks, all of which appeared to do significant damage to Rigor. I gotta say, this is the first time. This is a beautiful panel, by the way, and this is the first time in the entire fight, really, where we've seen Rigor look like this. It kind of feels like it might be over for this man, right? Anyway, Gogeta then kicks Rigor into the sky. He follows up by teleporting behind him and hitting his body back towards the ground. Rigor crashes into the surface of the earth, creating an explosion of rock and dust, and clearly taking significant damage. Off to the side, Sappari is still observing the fight. Gogeta, who is still in the sky, looking down on Rigor, lands, while Rigor stumbles to his feet. Gogeta says to him, "Had enough?" Rigor then says, "No, not yet," and he begins to power up. The panel below shows a large amount of Hakai energy radiating out of Rigor's body, making his eyes even darker. He charges Gogeta again. Their fists collide with a double punch, creating a blinding burst of energy. And then the two begin zipping around the sky in one of those fight scenes that is too difficult for our eyes to follow. In the middle of the fight, Rigor says to himself, "Too fast, too strong. Not enough. I need more. Need more." And with that, you can see in his eyes, he's almost completely lost himself to the madness. The darkness around his pupils have almost completely taken over. The two collide and then land opposite of each other, with Rigor releasing even more Hakai energy. This is a very clean panel. I love the way this is drawn. Gogeta says, "What is this? Heat?" Sappari off to the side says, "Oh no, she knows what's coming." And then we get to see the right eye of Rigor, which is now completely engulfed in darkness. The story continues with the conversation between the Z Warriors who are flying away from the fight. Gohan, Piccolo, Oob, Trunks, and Goten. Oob asks Gohan, "Do you think they'll be okay?" Gohan responds, "Of course. They took down Omega Shenron in that form. They cannot," but before he can finish his thought, he senses what's going on the battlefield. Behind them, there is a loud explosion, releasing a wave of ki. Oob looks over his shoulder yelling, "What's going on back there?" Back to the fight. We get this beautiful double-page spread of this crazy fight. Rigor and Gogeta are in an all-out brawl. Still on the side of the battlefield, Sappari says this is impossible, as Rigor says to himself, "More. I need more." With each thought, we could see the last bit of sanity draining from his left eye as it gets consumed by darkness. I just want to say, shout out to Malik. The way these panels are drawn, the way Rigor is losing himself to madness here, is very creative. Each panel getting smaller and smaller, darker and darker, representing less and less of himself. I think it's super creative. Lastly, somewhere in Rigor's mind space, he sees a picture of himself, Sappari, and get this, it looks like their child, their son, which means Vegeta is an uncle. This is crazy. It's heartwarming. But to himself, he remembers his teacher's words. As long as he harbors this grudge, his strength will be all he has. Never peace. And then the picture begins to burn. need more, Rigor says to himself. With only a bit of sanity left in his left eye, you can see his power has significantly increased. Gogeta looks a lot more worried in their fight. One of Rigor's blows connect, sending Gogeta flying. Gogeta lands and begins to ready himself as Rigor stands staring at him. Still determined to end the fight quickly, Gogeta begins a Kamehameha. These panels are just so beautifully drawn. Rigor yells more as Gogeta sends his ki blast that manages to connect in another beautiful double page spread. This scene reminds me a bit of Jiren pushing back the spirit bomb because Rigor catches the Kamehameha, standing his ground against Gogeta. Meanwhile, in his mind space, the image of himself, the image of his family is beginning to completely disintegrate. He yells more and rips Gogeta's Kamehameha apart. This is pretty dope. Never seen this before in Dragon Ball. Even Gogeta is surprised. The move sends intense shockwaves across the battlefield, forcing everyone to protect themselves. And before Gogeta can sense him, Rigor attacks, delivering a devastating right-handed blow to Gogeta's midsection. This is the first real big attack Rigor managed to land on Gogeta, and it sends him flying. However, Rigor seems to be almost completely lost at this point. He's still yelling more. Suddenly, Sapari appears in front of him. She is in tears. She says, "Beloved, I need you to stop fighting." Seeing this off to the side, Gogeta says, "What is she?" Sapari continues with tears running down her face. She says, "It's time to rest, beloved. Everything will be alright." Trying to remember who she is, Rigor says, Sapari? And then, in his mind space, he remembers the words of his sensei. So long as he harbors this grudge, his strength will be all he has, never peace. And with that, Rigor completely loses himself to his madness. He sends a killing blow towards his wife, Sapari. And that, guys, for now, is where the story ends. I just want to say, this story is so beautiful, it's so well drawn, and it has so much potential. I love the new addition of God Ki to this universe. This is the first story I've seen that incorporates both the storyline of GT and Dragon Ball Super. There's so many mysteries right now, like why can't Goku use Ultra Instinct? Where is Beast Gohan? That aside, I'm still very curious to see how Malik ends up stitching it all together. I think Malik is on a break from creating these stories. I know they take a lot of time and effort, so make sure you show him some love. I'll leave a link in the description to his socials and to his website where you can read this manga for yourself. Tell him I sent you. #finish Rigor in the comments below if you made it this far in the story. Guys, that's it for me. I love you guys. Thank you for checking out this video. Have a great day. I will be talking to you again as soon as I can. Bye.